コニーとカスバートが今いるのはレーストラック。私がデザインした最新モデルのキューブカーでレースしています。コニーはもうコツをつかんだようですね。カスバートも頑張って。はあ、飛ばしすぎちゃいましたね。あなたもエディットモードに切り替えて一緒に乗り物を作ってみましょう。このキューブカーを操作するにはいくつかのガジェットが必要です。その第一ステップとしてまずはコントローラーセンサーを追加しますよ。これは主にパペットに使いますが、実は何でも操作できちゃうんです。キューブカーを構成するのはスカルプチャーとコネクターの集合体。そこにスコープインしてからじゃないとエディットはできません。キューブカーの上で L1 を長押ししながら×を押します。車体の正面にはマイクロチップがついています。この中にキューブカーを動かすロジックを入れていきますよ。L1 と×でマイクロチップにスコープイン。中身はほぼ空っぽ。今あるのは体力マネージャーだけ。マイクロチップは車体にサーフェイススナップされているので、中のガジェットもすべてサーフェイススナップされた状態になります。マイクロチップは一度開くと、そのグループからスコープアウトしても開いた状態が維持されるのでとっても便利。でも閉じてしまったら、もう一度キューブカーにスコープインするまで開けません。次のステップでは、キューブカーの操作方法を組み立てていきますよ。さて、まず必要なのはコントローラーセンサー。これがあればチップがキューブカーに宿れます。組み立てメニューからガジェットを選択。コントローラーセンサーはセンサー&インプットの中。コントローラーと歯車のアイコンです。×で選択し、キャンバスの左側にある体力マネージャーのすぐ右にスタンプしましょう。シグナルは左から右へと流れるため、コントローラーセンサーは右に続くガジェットを起動させます。でも、まずは体力マネージャーを接続しちゃいましょう。このガジェットが体力0になると、コントローラーセンサーに死亡シグナルを送信。ちょっぴしおっかなく聞こえますが、つまりはトラックから外れても、 キューブカーが復活できるということ。体力マネージャーとコントローラーセンサーのポートが見えるよう調節してください。体力マネージャーの体力0アウトプットからワイヤーを伸ばし、コントローラーセンサーの脂肪インプットに接続します。はい、完成。これでキューブカーがトラックを外れてもすぐに復活できますからね。進む準備ができたら次のステップへどうぞ。引き続きコントローラーセンサーを見ていきましょう。L1 と四角でコントローラーセンサーの手直しメニューをオープン。大事なプロパティのタブを開いてください。その名の通り、ここの設定はとっても大事。我らがチップに関する設定です。下の方に宿り中のビジュアルという項目がありますね。これはチップがコントローラーセンサーに宿る時の見た目の設定。キューブカーの車体の上にはチップ用の小さなコックピットがあるので、設定を表示 OK ボディに変更しましょう。するとキューブカーの上に顔のような仕掛けが出現。見えやすいように R2 でメニューをずらしますね。この仕掛けはチップがキューブカーに宿った時に表示される位置とその向きを示しています。仕掛けを動かす前に組み立てメニューのガイドを開きましょう。グリッドスナップをオンにし、1/2のサイズに設定。こうすれば仕掛けの向きがずれません。仕掛けを R2 でつかみ、キューブカーのコックピットの位置に合わせます。あとは運転手に宿ってもらうだけ。L1 と丸で手直しメニューを閉じて、オプションメニューからプレイモードに切り替えます。R2 で車体に宿ると、キューブカーに命が吹き込まれました。でもこれはほんの始まり。進む準備ができたら、エディットモードに切り替え、L3 で巻き戻してから次のステップへどうぞ。プレイモードの時、キューブカーの車体が傾いていたのに気づきましたか？それは移動 OK になっているため、シーン内の物理的な力の影響を受けているんです。なので、キューブカーを動かす前に車体を安定させましょう。こんな時にぴったりなのがジャイロスコープ。オブジェクトを直立にしてくれます。組み立てメニューからガジェットを選択。まるでセンサー&インプットのメニューを閉じて、ムーバー&アウトプットを開きます。ジャイロスコープを探してください。×で選択し、マイクロチップのキャンバスにスタンプ。ジャイロスコープは他のガジェットにつなげなくても大丈夫。安定させたいオブジェクトに取り付けるだけです。まるでガジェットを解除してください。次に、ジャイロスコープの手直しメニューをオープン。メニュー内に筋肉ムキムキのアイコンがついたスライダーがありますね。これはジャイロスコープの強度。強度が高いほどシーンに作用している力を上回ることができます。一気に 100% まで上げちゃいましょう。これならキューブカーもぐらつきません。車体を直立させるには上の方向も指定する必要があります。この矢印の仕掛けを使いましょう。矢印を掴んで動かすと上にする方向を変更できるんです。このままでも OK ですね。 手直しメニューを閉じ、R3 で車体の安定性を確認しましょう。しっかりしてますね。いよいよ動かす準備ができたら、L3 で巻き戻して次のステップへ。さて、いよいよキューブカーを運転してみましょう。それにはムーバーが必要です。キューブカーのマイクロチップを閉じた場合、スコープインして L1 と×で開いてください。組み立てメニューからガジェットを選択。ムーバー&アウトプットのメニュー内にムーバーがあります。アイコンは箱と矢印です。×で選択。マイクロチップの右側にムーバーをスタンプして、まるでガジェットを解除します。マイクロチップはキューブカーにサーフェイススナップされているので、その中身もまたサーフェイススナップされた状態。つまり、マイクロチップを動かしてしまうと、中に入っているガジェットの位置もずれてしまうので、ムーバーを手直しする前にしっかり設置してくださいね。では、×でムーバーを選択しましょう。ガジェットを選択、または手直しメニューを開くと、その仕掛けが表示されます。他のガジェットの仕掛けも見える場合は、手直しメニューを閉じるか、×で選択を解除してください。ムーバーの仕掛けはどっちが前の方向かを指定します。現在、仕掛けはキューブカーに間違った方向を示していますね。仕掛けを調節する前に、ガイドメニューでグリッドスナップがオンになっていることをチェック。できたら仕掛けをつかみ、キューブカーの前の方向に向きを調節します。グリッドスナップなしでも調節できますが、ちょっとずれやすいかもですね。R3 を押すと、キューブカーが矢印の方向に進むはずです。最速記録を出せるスピード感ではありませんが、今は良しとしましょう。L3 でシーンを巻き戻し、準備ができたら次のステップへどうぞ。キューブカーを運転するには操作できるようにしないとですね。まず、ムーバーをコントローラーセンサーにつなげましょう。でも必要なポートがガジェットの表にないので、L1 と四角でコントローラーセンサーの手直しメニューを開きます。手直しメニューはデフォルトで画面にピン止めされていますが、表示位置を調整したい場合は、手直しメニューの上にあるピン止めのオプションをオフにしてください。表示位置を保存して、いつも同じ場所に開くこともできちゃいますよ。保存するには、メニュー上部にある怒りのアイコンを選択するだけ。キューブカーを動かすには R2 ボタンを使います。手直しメニューの最初のタブを見ると、コントローラーのボタンがありますね。R2 または×で R2 ボタンのアウトプットポートからワイヤーを伸ばし、ムーバーがある方へ引っ張っていきます。そのまま前進スピードのインプットへ接続。最後に手直しメニューを閉じます。さっきのキューブカーはかなりノロノロ運転だったので、次はもうちょっと勢いを足してあげましょう。スピードアップは次のステップで。では、キューブカーが勢いよく走れるようにしてみましょう。ムーバーの手直しメニューを開き、×で前進スピードのスライダーを上げます。秒速50メートルならだいぶ勢いが出るはず。次に、ムーバーがローカルスペースで動作するようにします。これはつまり、キューブカーの向きに合わせてムーバーの向きも変わるということなので、キューブカーのロジックにハンドル操作を足したときに役立ちますよ。現在、ムーバーはシーンスペースに設定されています。なので、キューブカーが向いている方向にかかわらず、ムーバーは矢印の方向に進んでしまいます。でもそれだとキューブカーが方向転換できないので、 ×でローカルスペースに切り替えましょう。これで矢印の仕掛けを動かすと、それに合わせて軸も変わります。矢印が前を指すよう調節してください。グリッドスナップをオンにしていれば、きっちり調節できますからね。これでキューブカーの向きを変えると、ムーバーの向きも変わりますよ。それでは手直しメニューを閉じてプレイモードで運転してみましょう。キューブカーいい感じ。エディットモードに戻って L3 でシーンを巻き戻してください。次のステップではキューブカーにバックの機能を追加しましょう。このステップではキューブカーにバックの設定を追加しますよ。そのために使うのはおなじみのムーバー。ただしバックするのには別のボタンを使用したいのでコンバイナーも必要です。ガジェットのメニューからロジック&プロセスを開きます。コンバイナーは2本の線が1つの矢印になっているアイコンです。キャンバスに持っていき、コントローラーセンサーとムーバーの間にスタンプ。まるでコンバイナーを解除します。ここで一つ言っておくと、ワイヤーは一度に複数のシグナルを伝達することができ、そのようなワイヤーのことを太めのワイヤーと呼びます。コンバイナーは複数のインプットのシグナルを一つにまとめて、この太めのワイヤーを作れるんです。コンバイナーのインプットを覗いてみましょう。このコンバイナーは正と負のシグナルをひとまとめにします。コンバイナーを経由してコントローラーセンサーとリンクすれば R2 ボタンを加速に L2 ボタンを減速とバックに使用できるんです。ムーバーにつながっているワイヤーにチップを合わせハイライトしましょう。R2 で掴んでワイヤーを外し、今度はコンバイナーの正のインプットポートに接続します。コントローラーセンサーの手直しメニューが開いていない場合、L1 と四角で開いてください。バック用には L2 ボタンのアウトプットからワイヤーを出します。そのまま伸ばし、コンバイナーの負のインプットポートに接続。最後に R2 または×でコンバイナーのアウトプットポートとムーバーの前進スピードのインプットをつなぎます。これでムーバーにリンクしたワイヤーは R2 ボタンで加速する正のシグナルと一緒に L2 ボタンで減速とバックする負のシグナルを伝達します。言葉だけだと分かりづらいのでプレイモードで試してみましょう。だいぶ運転らしくなってきましたね。あとはハンドル操作を追加すればよし。それは次のステップでやりますよ。ドライブに満足したらエディットモードに戻って L3 で巻き戻しましょう。キューブカーがカーブを曲がれるようにハンドル操作を追加しましょう。キューブカーには車輪が2つしかないので、シンプルなローテーターでことは足りるはず。組み立てメニューからムーバー&アウトプットを開いてください。いらないメニューはまるで閉じちゃいましょう。点線に囲まれたキューブがローテーターのアイコンです。×で選択し、ムーバーの上にスタンプ。まるでガジェットを解除します。仕掛けが正しい方向を向いているか確認したいので、ローテーターの手直しメニューを開きます。いらない仕掛けが表示されていたら、そのガジェットの手直しメニューを閉じるか、×で選択を解除。 ローテーターの仕掛けは回転軸と速度を示します。あら、回転軸が縦になっちゃってますね。これでは方向転換できません。仕掛けを R2 で掴んで持ち上げ、回転軸が横になるよう調節してください。グリッドスナップをオンにしていないと正確に合わせるのが難しいですよ。反時計回りに動いている線は回転方向を表しています。R3 でテストしましょう。ローテーターの強度を上げないとですね。キューブカーは重いですから。手直しメニューに行き、回転の強度を上げてみましょう。腕のアイコンがついたスライダーです。これでバッチリ。90% で十分ですね。では L3 で巻き戻しましょう。L1 と丸で手直しメニューも閉じてくださいね。次のステップではローテーターをコントローラーセンサーに接続しますよ。ハンドル操作は左スティックに設定しましょう。L1 と四角でコントローラーセンサーの手直しメニューを開き、3つ目のタブを開きます。2つ目のタブにも左右のスティックのアウトプットがありますが、必要なのは3つ目にあるローカルのアウトプットです。ローカルだと左右の方向はコントローラーセンサーの向きを基準にします。つまり、ムーバーのローカルスペース同様、左スティックを左に倒したとき、カメラではなくキューブカーから見た左に動くということです。そうそう。ボタンの上にチップを数秒合わせると詳細がわかるインフォを表示できますよ。左スティックのアウトプットは左右だけでなく上下のシグナルも送信します。でも方向転換にいるのは左右だけなのでシグナルを分割しましょう。組み立てメニューに戻りロジック&プロセスへ。スプリッターを探します。1本の線が2つの矢印に分かれているアイコンですね。×で選択し、キャンバスのコントローラーセンサーとローテーターの間にスタンプしましょう。スプリッターの役目はコンバイナーと真逆。太めのワイヤーを個別のシグナルに分割します。次にコントローラーセンサーにある左スティックのローカルアウトプットから R2 か×でワイヤーを出します。そのままスプリッターのインプットに接続。これで左スティックのワイヤーが X と Y の2つに分割されます。わかりやすく言うと左右と上下ですね。今回は X の左右のアウトプットが必要なので、×か R2 でワイヤーを出し、ローテーターの回転スピードのインプットに接続します。では、実際に試してみましょう。プレイモードに切り替えてドライブタイム。あれ？うまく操作できませんね。しかも左と右の動きがごっちゃのようです。一体どうしてでしょう？まだまだ手直しが必要そうです。エディットモードに戻り、L3 で巻き戻してから次のステップへどうぞ。ドライブを試してもらっている間にロジックを整理してみました。少し手を加えて整理整頓しておくと見やすいですからね。その上、何かがうまくいかなかったとき、修正もしやすくなります。そうそう、キューブカーのハンドル操作も手直ししないと。今は動きが重く、左と右が入れ替わっちゃってます。でもご安心を、これは回転スピードを手直しするだけで直っちゃうんです。ローテーターの力は強いですが、回転が足りていません。そこで速度を上げてみましょう。回転スピードのスライダーを×でつかみ、左にスライドします。あれ？それ逆でしょって思ってませんか？その通り。でも、左と右の方向を直すには、回転の方向も逆にしなければなりません。 スライダーを0まで下げると止まりますが、×を離してもう一度スライダーをつかめば、マイナス値にスライドできるようになります。秒速マイナス700メートルあたりに設定しましょう。これは現在の速度ではなく、最大速度を設定しているので、スライダーを離すと0に戻ります。手直し完了。これでキューブカーは準備万端です。プレイする前にロジックをおさらいしておきましょう。コントローラーセンサーは他のロジックにシグナルを送信する役目。左スティックのローカルアウトプットから出ている太めのワイヤーは X と Y に分割され、X のシグナルはローテーターの回転スピードを変えるために使います。R2 ボタンと L2 ボタンは正と負のシグナルを伝達する1本の太めのワイヤーに融合され、ムーバーの前進スピードを起動します。正のシグナルは加速、負は減速させます。乗り物を作るにはこんな簡単なロジックで十分なんです。ロジックを極めればさらに複雑な操作を加えることもできちゃいますよ。さて、いよいよレースタイムです。プレイモードに切り替えてキューブカーとコースを一周してみましょう。方向転換がうまくいかない場合は、エディットモードに戻ってムーバーとローテーターの手直しメニューを調べてください。仕掛けの向きが違うか、ムーバーがローカルスペースに設定されていないかもしれません。新しいキューブカーを作りたければ、チュートリアルのコレクションから選びましょう。ドライブを満喫したらゴールしてチュートリアル完了です。
Hello, I'm Maya. I'm an artist here at Media Molecule. In this masterclass, I'll be showing you some of my personal techniques, tips, and tricks for creating exciting levels and scenes in Dreams. Inspired by making the ancient times kit and scenes, I'll be making a stylized set using a mixture of pre-made and custom-designed elements, paying special attention to lighting and grading. This masterclass will teach you how to roughly lay out a scene, light and grade to create a cool atmosphere, and paint and modify assets to finish it off. I've made a small character with a cartoonish appearance, so my design doesn't want to feel too realistic. This means I can push my design choices in a more fun and playful direction. I've also made a collection of some of my pre-made elements that you can use to build your scene quickly. I'll be using the paint and sculpt modes a lot throughout this masterclass, so if you're not that familiar with those modes, check out some of our tutorials, which will get you up to speed. Feel free to create with me or just sit back and watch me work. When you're ready, press the arrow on the video to move to the next step. Before I start creating anything, I like to set up a base look for the scene with 2 gadgets, sun and sky and grade and effects. I do this now because I like to see how my scene will look while I'm building, rather than waiting until it's complete. First, I'll make a simple rectangle at right angles to the floor to see how my changes affect the colors, shadows, and general look of the scene. The rectangle casts a shadow and has one side in shade and one side in direct light. This allows me to see how the changes I make affect the light and dark parts of the image. I tweak the sun and sky gadget to get a feeling of sunset or dusk, as I'm going for a darker setting. This means making the sun quite orange and lowering its position so that it casts longer shadow. I change the sky flick type and give the sky a pinkish hue. Also, to create a cinematic look, I use a microchip with true wiper gadgets, which imitates black bars at the top and bottom of the screen. I use this because I really like the widescreen look, and it helps me focus on what is on screen all the time when creating. This is a technique I've brought over from my experience of drawing digitally. You can also find this simple black bars element in the collection if you want to use it too. Now I do a loose pass on the grade using the Grade and Effects gadget I added earlier. Grading is the art of manipulating the look of an image by changing the contrast, tone, and color in a way that affects everything in the image. It's a great way to change the atmosphere of a scene in a few simple steps. Most images you see, whether in movies, television, or photography, have been graded. Sometimes it's subtle, and sometimes it's really obvious. I adjust the grain, lens flare, bloom, and vignette strength. The vignette focuses the viewer's eye towards the center of the screen. It's a neat way to direct a player's attention. Experiment with the Grade and Effects gadget to create a look you like too. Now I've got a rough grading and lighting setup. I like to create a palette that I work from as I sculpt and paint. Having a predefined set of colors that work together really helps the art direction. For this scene, I've chosen a selection of pastel colors to work from. I simply make a few flattened cubes and tint each one a color that I like. I group them together so I can move them around the scene as needed. As I work, I use the color picker to select colors from the palette before painting or sculpting new objects, much like an artist would when painting. When in sculpt mode, paint mode, or code mode, you can shortcut to the color picker by pressing the touchpad button on your wireless controller. Then simply press X over the color you would like to use. If you're using the motion controllers like me, simply tap the sphere on your primary controller to the base of your secondary controller to activate the color picker. Then hover your primary imp over the color on the palette you would like to use and press X on your primary controller to select it. This isn't limited to your color palette. You can select colors from any part of your scene. Now I have a base look set up. I'll start laying out my scene in the next step. Press the arrow on the video player when you're ready to move on. Now we're going to lay out our scene. We call this making a white box. A white box is like making a skeleton structure that we'll build upon. I'll start by sculpting buildings using smear or stamp shape. I've added some buildings to the collection if you'd like to stamp them in too. Think about how you can modify them by scoping in and editing each one to your liking. To get that natural look, you'll notice I don't use the grid, relying more on my eye to create cuts and stamps. I tend to make things quite wonky and not super straight. For instance, making this simple wall with a recessed arch. Just as in real life, there's usually a lot of unevenness in things, which actually can help make the scene look more real. At least in these stylized scenes that I tend to make, I rarely make anything that's exactly symmetrical and sharp. While I'm sculpting, I like to think about where a character could explore. These could be alleyways, narrow streets, or stairs to a raised level of the scene. I move my view around where the scene camera will be, visualizing the buildings around me. That way I can make the scene feel as I want it to for the player. This usually means having smaller, more detailed structures close to the playable area, with larger, less detailed elements further away. Finally, I'll add a floor to my scene. You can find one I've made in the collection. First, I'll switch on Stay Upright, so that the floor stays level, and then stamp it in the scene. I'll clone them around to fill up the floor area. I'm happy with the white box scene now, so in the next step, we'll start adding some detail. When you're ready, go to the next step. Now I'll start adding detail to my creations. Using a color from my palette, I'll make a sign above this doorway. I like to use the mirror guide to quickly cut away at sculptures and create the shape I like. I use a hard-edged shape set to subtract and in a dark color to cut into the sign and give it a handcrafted look. Then I'll add smaller details with shapes set to add to create a motif before I begin to paint. By using paint mode with surface snap, as well as tweaking the finish, impasto and ruffle, I can paint over the sculptures as I would in a drawing or painting. For me, that's really fun, as I love drawing, and using this technique, I can imitate the way I would make a set in a drawing or an asset. It's a fun mix between 2D and 3D. Making this first custom piece in my scene has given me some ideas about the design choices I'll make in the next steps. When you're ready, press the arrow on the video player to move on to the next step. Now that I have a base for the architecture and layout of my scene, I'll start building on it with elements from the collection. Following the lines of the architecture and spaces that have been created, I stamp my assets into place, fine-tuning as I go. Assets can be edited, cloned, and painted on to create new and interesting details. I love seeing how one small item can become several varied elements in the scene. Remember, you can scope into and edit any items you find in my collection, or even the Dreamiverse. I'll use different flecks to paint the area between the wooden frames to add texture, color, and detail. I really like using paint mode to create physical elements with strokes. These are especially useful with the default heavy fleck in creating wall structures. I won't be too precious about my decisions here, as they'll probably change later. But having most of the white box elements dressed will be handy before we move on to the next step. Continue stamping elements from the collection and look for interesting ways to modify them into bespoke pieces. When you're ready, move on to the next step. Now I'll do some detailing on my structures, starting with that arched doorway I built earlier. I'll scope in and start by creating some brickwork to form the arch. I roughly matched the shape with a cylinder with a hole in it, sectioned in half. My scene already has some decoration which can be a bit distracting when sculpting. So I use the Hide Everything Else button from the context menu. This lets me focus on my sculpture and see around my other objects that may be blocking my view. Once I've added my detail, I can use this element to create walls and structures of the same style. This is really simple now that we've made our main arch asset. I delete the subtract edits that formed the arch. Then I cut away with a sharp-edged subtract shape like I did before to create the missing brickwork. I'll use stamp shape with some rectangles and a small amount of soft blend to create this raised brick look. Using paint mode with surface snap switched on, I paint over the brickwork to give it a weathered look. I use darker tones close to the edges and grooves, where dirt and grime would accumulate over the years. I clone my wall section around the scene, always being careful to look for gaps. Then making sure it doesn't feel too uniform or repeated by making small adjustments to size, position, and angle. When you're ready, move on to the next step. In this step, I'm going to create some giant ribbons to hang between buildings. I'll create a sculpture with a circle subtracted from it, in roughly the position I'd like my fabric to hang, using it as a surface to paint on. Then I'll use paint mode to paint onto the inner curve, trying to keep the strokes straight so it feels like one sheet of fabric. This gives a curve to the stroke that mirrors how a ribbon would hang in real life. Then I can delete the sculpture, leaving the fabric strokes behind to form my decoration. I tint the paint strokes to get a color I like. Now I can tweak the physical properties of the painting. I make it attached at both ends and use the gizmo to tweak the wind direction. I want a bit of wind flutter, so I tweak the floppiness, as well as the wind strength and wind flap frequency, to suggest a light breeze. The Dreams engine makes it really simple to get awesome effects like these. I'll clone them around the scene, changing the colors slightly, and scaling them to fit the different distances between buildings. I really like how these ribbons have added movement to my scene. Subtle movements within a scene can really bring it to life without doing complex animations. Maybe you can make some other decorations, like flags or hanging fabrics, and tweak their physical properties too. When you're ready, move on to the next step. I'd like to use the staircase I've made to lead us to another area of the scene in a different art style. So far the scene is all happening on one level, so I'll use this as an opportunity to add some style and elevation changes for the player. Creating architecture in a different style is fun for me, and for the player. I'll simply use this one piece, repeated across the scene, to create the architecture. It's great how one sculpt asset can be used in such creative ways. Once this part of my scene starts to take shape, I like to tweak the lighting and effects to change its tone and mood. I love how fog interacts with light and adds a glow to an area, lifting shadows, masking less detailed areas, and adding some mystery to the visuals. These lanterns from the collection can be tweaked to look like glowing fire deep within these structures. Tweaking the paint strokes to add glow and intensity to them. So this area actually starts to look more steampunky or industrial, which is fine. It's kind of fun to try and integrate all these random styles. Even when you don't really intend for it to look like that, it's kind of interesting for me to let myself play around with random inputs and ideas. When you're ready, move on to the next step. Now I'm looking at finishing off the scene. I like to use paint mode to add some flourish and detail. Here I'm adding some clouds to bring the sky to life. I'm using the circle's flick and adjusting the tint to give them depth. A trick I have is to clone the cloud and make the copy a darker color. Then I shift the cloud to one side and behind the original, leaving the darker strokes behind, giving a dark rimmed edge. This saves me from having to paint more strokes to create shape. Once I'm happy with the look, I'll clone and scale them around the sky, always moving my camera to get a sense of how they move relative to my buildings. When you're ready, move on to the next step. Here's another technique I like to use for painting objects to use as architecture, using the technique I used earlier of painting onto a sculpture. I start with a cube and flatten it down, scaling it roughly to the size I want the drawing in my scene. I use paint mode with surface snap to create outlines of tall buildings to fill the horizon. The trick here is to use the rectangle as a canvas and then delete it once you're done, leaving your painted strokes behind. Then I can clone and edit the drawings around the scene as I see fit. Scale and color are great ways to make them feel varied and save a lot of time. When you're ready, move on to the next step. So now I think I'm happy with this scene as it is. The scene evolved and changed a lot from what I originally had in mind, and that's great. As an artist, I love seeing how my ideas grow and develop over the course of building a scene. It's always a surprise at the end. For me, the best thing is also that in this process, it made me create a lot of things that I can use for future scenes. I hope you've taken a few insights into how I work, along with some techniques that can be used to give pre-made elements your own flourish. Why not try using my techniques to add polish and personal touch to your own scenes? I can't wait to see what you make. Thanks for watching my masterclass.
Hello, I'm Kareem, Art Director of Media Molecule. Today I will be doing a sculpture masterclass. I'll be modeling a male bust and going through basic modeling techniques to block the general form of the sculpture and build up to more detailed techniques and more sculptural philosophies and attitudes to find your own personal style in Dream. I hope you find it inspiring for you to start sculpting and find your own style in Dreams. And now we begin sculpting our head. The first phase is to block out the general shape of all the head and bust components. Here we go. This is a sculpture pedestal that I've made earlier for the purpose of this tutorial. Also, I've made the space around us and put in it some of my favorite sculptures for inspiration and reference. I've also pre-lit it with nice lights to help us sculpt in a nice atmosphere. Before we start the sculpture, I would like to recap that it's very important to have learned the camera controls. In the Dream tutorials, you will find tutorials just focusing on the camera controls and tells you all about the different nuances of it. The most important one is the grab cam, where pressing your move button on your primary controller will grab the point in space that your imp tip is over. This is the imp tip on top of the imp here. So if I put my imp wherever I want to go, press the move button, pull myself towards that point or push myself away, you see that the camera is moving accordingly. It's very important to have practiced this in order to proceed with the sculpt tutorial. There is also other features in the camera like zooming, which makes you zoom in right close to an area in order to work on very fine detail. I would recommend that you practice using the camera controls now, and when you feel confident in them, click the arrow on the video to go to the next step. The first thing I'm going to do is open my sculpt menu by pressing the T button on my secondary controller. I will pick the modes and choose the sculpt mode. Sculpt mode defaults on shapes. The shape I'm going to start with is the sphere shape. When I start pressing my T button on my primary controller, I can smear my shape continuously like that. This is the tool that sculpt mode defaults in. Instead, I'm going to change to stamp shape tool, which allows me to stamp singular stamps of my chosen shape. This is the tool I'm going to start with in my sculpture. Now I need to stretch my sphere shape. To do that, I'll use form. I tap my two controllers together, which puts me into the form state. Once I'm happy with that, I press the T button on the secondary controller to lock the shape that I've stretched, something like that. Now I need to turn on some guides to help me place my first edits. To do that, I will open my menu again, press the guide menu and select the stay upright guide. Pressing that fixes my shape to upright position only and doesn't go in any other orientation. By pressing the second toggle beside it, it allows it to only rotate by 90 degrees only, like this. The next guide I'd like to enable from the start of my sculpture is the mirror guide. This allows me to work in symmetry, which is very useful for modeling a head. To do that, I will go to the guides, enable it, and this activates the mirror guide, which places a copy of every edit I do. This is very useful in modeling a head. You can see the mirror plane as well is drawn in the center. I will switch that off because I prefer modeling without. Now to place my first stamp, I'd like to get my two mirrored copies exactly aligned on top of one another. To do that, I try to get that center line aligned as much as I can. When I do that, I press the T button on the primary controller to place my edit. For the second edit, for the back of the head, I will turn my shape by 90 degrees and intersect with the front of the head. I would like to also blend that shape onto the first one more softly. To do that, I will activate one of our other features called the soft blend. To soft blend, I press the square button on my secondary controller and twist my hand like that. This allows my shape to blend with the previous shape in a softer way. And when I'm happy with the blend amount, I press the T button on my primary controller to stamp my shape like that. Move on to the next step when you're ready. The back of the head is a little bit too long. To modify the shape, I go to my stretch tool, grab the back of the head, and move it inwards like that. Now I need to change to subtract to suggest the jaw shape. To do that, I will pick a different shape, the cube, and press this button up here to change to subtract. This allows me to cut out shapes instead of adding them. There is also a shortcut to toggle between adding and subtracting, like that. From now on, I will be using this shortcut. I place my cube at the bottom of the head to cut the jaw shape, and I need to scale this cube up a little bit. To do that, I use the controlled scale, which is pressing the button, the circle button on the secondary controller, and twisting my hand upwards like that makes my shape bigger or smaller. Notice that the upright guides are still on, which makes my shapes still upright. I'll do this first cut here for the first shape, and then go on the back of the head to create the back of the jaw shape. Always remember to press the move button and move your camera around to keep examining your edits that they are what you need them to be, just like I'm doing here. This is roughly what I'm looking for. Then I press the T button. Now the shape of the head is starting to form. When you're happy with your shape, move on to the next step. Now I would like to exit my sculpture. I'll open my menu again and start a new sculpture. Pick the cylinder shape. You don't have to get the shape or the size of the cylinder right from the start. I'll just stamp it around the right position. I'll pick back my stretch tool to stretch that cylinder into the right size. Stretch it from the top and from the bottom. The next thing I will do is pick another shape, the sphere shape, another time, and stretch it using the form gesture into an ellipse shape, like this. Scale it up, and remember I need to be in the stamp tool, not the smear tool. Now I can soft blend the shape into this cylinder and do another stamp on the side for the shoulders. This is roughly the shape of the upper body and the neck. I will exit the sculpture again, and now I will position and scale the two pieces of my sculpture to get the right proportions. I've switched off my upright guide And now using the cut tool and turning the upright guide back on to get a clean cut at the bottom for my bust. I got the shape of the top part now and the bottom part of my sculpture. I keep toggling between turning upright off and on for the purposes of the cuts being straight or not. Now I've switched it off. I don't really need it anymore for the work we're doing. I'm now going to scale and move my two pieces around till I just get them relatively a good proportion to each other. I selected the two together by using my X button and selecting the two, and now I can just move them both. To realign any shape, I just select it, and while holding my T button, I press triangle to realign it. So this is a good tip to know. Scoping back into the bottom section again, without the upright guide on anymore, and now I can tilt the neck cylinder a little bit to the front. Exit the sculpture again. This stage is all about trying to get a good relationship between the two pieces so I can start my next stage of sculpture. And now I'd like to re-enter my sculpture and pick the cylinder shape, use it to cut the eye socket using a little bit of soft blend in that cut as well. The eye socket is normally around the center distance of that front egg shape of the head. I'll pick this cylinder again and scale it up to do a cut for the tapering of the side of the head with a little soft blend on it as well. Move on to the next step when you're satisfied. Now to do the basic shapes for the nose, mouth, and chin. For the nose, I'll pick a cube and stretch it again using form into this shape. Place it between the two eye grooves that we've done earlier. Use a little bit of soft blend by dialing it up and placing that edit. Again, I can move my edit after the fact using the Move tool, just to get it more perfect. That's the basic shape I need for the nose. To do the mouth shape, the mouth or the lips usually sit on top of what we call the mouth barrel, which is a big protruded muscle area around the lips. It usually goes until the middle of the eye socket. I will use a cylinder to do the top part like that and use a little bit of soft blend to blend it with the face. This gives me the first top half of the mouth, and then a smaller cylinder at the bottom to do the bottom section of the mouth. This is sort of a combination of the muscles and lips around this area simplified to the basic form. To do the chin, we'll use the sphere shape and place it at the bottom of the head right there and dial up a little bit of soft blend again to blend it a bit with the head shape. Like that. Move on to the next step when you're done. And now I need to do a little modification to the jaw to make it have the right proportion. So basically, if you imagine a line that comes from the middle of the mouth till the side here, this is where the jaw should end. So all this bit extra at the bottom is a little extra. This is a guide to know the relationship between the mouth and that edge or the corner of the jaw. So we just take a little bit off using a cut from the base of the cylinder with a little bit of soft blend, and it's more convincing or more elegant shape. This is where it should be from these two axes. Now, to do a little indentation in the skull, which we always get in the human skull, I will use a sphere and flatten it to do that indentation. I will try to get the flattened sphere as close as possible to the kind of shape I want to scoop out of the head. But rather than doing it in a very sharp cut like that, again, I will turn on a little bit of soft blend to do a softer indentation. I just move my hands in and out till I get the relative position that I want. I notice that my head is starting to take shape now, and the back of the head needs a tiny stretch still to make it slightly smaller. So I get my stretch tool and do that. Now for the ears, I will use the sphere again. Reselecting the shape, by the way, from the menu restores it again to its default uniform shape. I'll stretch my sphere shape to try to get the flat sphere that I want to do the ear. Again, the ear size is roughly from the start of the brow till the bottom of the nose, or the base of the nose. And the positioning of it starts there and ends there. We put it on the side where the jaw finishes, and then I'll get my stretch tool again and give it a little bit more width. Going back to the move tool to keep repositioning it, and I turn a lot the camera around to try to get that positioning as successful as possible. It's very important to look at the ears from the front to see that it's the right angle, and the ears usually protrude out a little bit like that. So much easier to work with just a sphere than a complex ear sculpture. So we try to get the general decisions as correct as possible, will make the specific detail much easier to do. I do another sphere cut to do the general groove of the ear. And it's very important not to get carried away with detail at this point in the sculpture. Just 3 edits to make the ear. One big one, the cut, and a little one there for the little bit at the bottom of the ear. I'll place it down here to get reasonable shape of the ear going. And always examine my sculpture, have a look at it from all directions, and make sure that everything looks reasonably cohesive and consistent. When you're ready, move on to the next step. Now to do the eyes, I pick the sphere shape and place the sphere in the middle of the eye groove. The size of the eyeball is about half of that shape, and the distance between the 2 eyeballs is another eyeball. So I'm just trying now to place the first stamp of that eye in a relatively good position. To help me do that, I'm actually going to stamp that first eyeball in the middle, which is the distance between the 2 eyes. I will put it there as a guide for me, and then I will put the eyes in the socket. I'm pushing them back because they're not as front as the one I put as a guide. Now that I've placed them with the distance between them reasonably right, I can delete that using the delete tool, and that helped me just place them relatively well. And I'm still going to move them back and front just by eye to make it convincing. There is a lot of by eye decisions in sculpture that you have to embrace. Now that I've placed the first eyeball, I can do my simple eyelids, or the first structure of eyelids, by using a cylinder and squashing it with the form gesture. And now to do the eyelid, I will stamp 3 cylinders on each side to get the relative shape of the eyelid around the eyeball. Now, because this is all one sculpture, I am not thinking about articulation or any of that. This is one sculpture designed to all work as one piece. If I wanted to articulate the eyelids, we would do them in a different way. So I'm doing 3 stamps for every side of the eyelid. And then moving them with my move tool to get them in better position. And examine and look around at my eye. Usually this is the point where the eyelid is widest. On the top side, it's 1/3 towards the nose, and on the bottom side, it's on the other 1/3 towards the ear. And now we have a basic shape of eyelids around the eye ready. And now we have blocked out the first stage of the head. I think it's a good time to practice this, get your head around it, and when you're ready for the next stage, go to the next step. Now we begin the second phase of our head masterclass, where we add more detail to all the face anatomy and the upper body. Now to add some more detail to the cheeks section. In this area here, I will add some cheek muscle. So the shape I need to use again is the sphere. I tend to use the sphere a lot in the early point of making a head. Squash the sphere using the form again into this sort of shape. And then make it the right size of the top part of the cheekbone and soft blend it using our soft blend and go around the edge of the face where the ear and the indentation of the skull are and place the first edit of the cheek. And then using the exact same edit, I just put another one beside it just to blend it a little bit nicer towards the nose. Now, using the sphere, I will flatten it to get as flat as I can shape with the sphere and turn round off the cheek, climbing on the nose like that. There is a muscle that goes on the side of the nose under the eye that is around here. Then I'm just moving the nose a bit, always sort of adjust and modify as you go. It's not because you put something once that you can't adjust it again. The whole process of sculpture is moving and removing your edits till you're happy, or at least this phase of it. So now the top part of the cheek muscle I've bulked up, and I can then get the cylinder shape and flatten it a little. And now, to emphasize the cheekbone, I will do a cut under that soft addition that we did to the cheek. It's nice to see the cuts in full sharpness first and then soft blend to help you make that sculptural decision. And I'm just moving my hand till I get the right shape. I place a cut. No, it's a little bit too deep. Undo. Try again. And move my hand. Yes, that's a little bit better. Use the other end of the cylinder to do the return of the cheekbone again. So I used one end of the edge of the cylinder base and the other end to do that sort of S shape. The base with soft blend on acts as a very gentle push tool that I use to just squash the cheek a little. And then I'm still moving this little muscle around to It's really just supposed to take that curve of the cheek and have a nice rounded effect from one side to the other. When you're happy with your shape, click the arrow on the video to go to the next step. Now we're going to add some detail to the jaw section. And what I need here is the sphere shape again. And I will use the form to stretch it into this very elongated ellipse. And I'll basically want to emphasize the jaw shapes just on the very edge of the face by placing one of those long ellipses on this end of the jaw and the other one on the lower end. And then I can go back to my Move tool by pressing Circle button, and I will move it to the exact edge of the jaw. And this other one, I want to just move it a little bit further, like that. And now I've got like my jaw edge emphasized. I'll give some detail to the nose. Go to the sphere shape and subtract. And now using the subtract, I want to sort of tighten the top part of the nose, push it a little bit to taper, get that taper shape of the nose, smaller at the top and widening towards the bottom. With soft blend, I've tapered the nose. Then go back, reselect the sphere shape to get it back to uniform sphere. And with some soft blend, I will do the two nostrils and the center nose bowl shape. I can just place them roughly where they're supposed to be, and again, I will move them around using the Move tool. But just two for the side and one in the center, like that. And then I'll do another long, elongated ellipsoid for bulking up the middle section of the nose, again using the Soft Blend tool. And you can see we've already changed our nose shape from a square or a cube form to something more organic. Now, using the Move tool, I will just move around my different edits to try to get them in the right place. You can see me adjusting it, and the nose shape is getting more convincing. Again, the main objective in this phase is to block the nose form. I don't have to get it perfect, but I'm trying to get it take form and prepare me for my next stage of refinements that is to come. Just adjusting the edits here using the Move tool. Now I will pick the cylinder shape to do my cuts, just to make a very big cut at the bottom of the nose to make it a bit flatter at the bottom. Move it around till I'm happy. There you go. And now, using the sphere shape, I'm going to cut two holes at the bottom of the nose with some soft blend on as well to get the nostrils. And just do one cut and a smaller cut in the front to make it a little bit longer. And that's our next phase of detail on the nose. I'm using the stretch tool here to just push the nose a little bit inwards, just like that. Move on to the next step when you're done. Now to work on the mouth and lips area to add more definition. I'll pick the cylinder shape again and switch to the subtract side and see if I can flatten the top of the mouth a bit more to get a better shape. Not every time I have an idea to do a refinement, I have to commit to it. Like, for example, now I keep putting the cylinder at the top and I didn't find a shape that felt right. In fact, the shape that we really need to do now is to extend the mouth from the sides a bit more, using the back of the cylinder to extend the mouth shape to the center point of the eyes, as we said earlier. Now that cut with a bit of soft blend and it feels right. The mouth is the right sort of proportion that ends at the middle of the eyes. Again, to see if I can try to get a curve at the side of the lips, I'm using the back of the cylinder with a bit of soft blend again. But it feels at the moment too fussy and unnecessary to put that now. Actually, what we need to do now is to get the philtrum, which is the recessed groove at the top of the lips under the nose. Using the sphere, I will stretch it with form again and add some soft blend. Move around the camera and move my hands in and out till I get the right shape. It doesn't have to be the right depth at the first time, I can change that later, but this is more or less like it. And then for the sulcus, I will, which is the groove under the mouth, I will use the same sphere and with a bit of soft blend again create that groove. Now the mouth is starting to shape up more. The next thing I want to do is to create the definition at the bottom of the lips. Using the cylinder again, I will stretch the shape and use the back side of the curve, the base of the cylinder, to get the definition of the bottom of the lips. Again, using a tiny bit of soft blend. That's more like it. Once you have a cut you like, move on to the next step. Now to add some bulk to the lips, I will use the very thin oval shape again and start with that center part of the lips. This almost like a V shape that we start with around here. It's important to look at the lips from the side and the front all the time because the decisions have to work in all axes. And using the same ellipse, I will add another edit beside the first one just to accentuate that V shape, always looking from all directions. And then I will stretch the sphere even longer for the sides of the lips and place them around here. Always following the contour of the face. And now we got the top section of the lips. I will just add one more between the center part and the side parts to connect them a little bit better. And again, using the same shape, the same sort of stretched egg shape, I will add small additions at the bottom of the lips to get a bit of rounded form to them. Now, using the back of the cylinder, I will adjust the top part to get the center. See, this is what I mean by the diagonal line. To get the top part of the lip, I'm exploring which part of the cylinder will give me the cut that I need. So I first try this side and look at it from different angles. Place the edit, actually not right. Then I'd actually make a simpler choice of just using the flat side of the cylinder and push it like that. Every little turn of your hands creates a slightly different result. That is something that you have to keep trying with time till your eye and hands are more sympathetic to one another. I will now clean up the philtrum area again, because due to this cut, I needed to adjust the philtrum again using the same stretched sphere with some soft blend. And then to accentuate the borders of the philtrum, I'll use a very thin stretched sphere and place it like that with some soft blend to accentuate the philtrum. But to make the hole a little bit less deep, I will put an edit inside there to make it less deep. Move on to the next step when you're ready. And now to work on adding some detail to the ear. The first bit I'd like to do is that small bit that hangs at the bottom of the ear. I don't really know the name of it. Using a flat, soft blended sphere, I create that shape. And then using the same sphere, I will just extend the groove behind it a bit more like that. It's very important to just know the shapes that you need to do rather than know the medical anatomic names for everything. Then I stretch the sphere one more time to create the section inside the ear that curves in a way that reflects the exterior of the ear. Using the back of the sphere, I sort of protrude it through like that. Again, switch off the soft blend to see better and then turn it on to blend better, if you see what I mean. That's exactly the curve I want to kind of repeat the curve of the ear again. And now using a small soft blended sphere, I will create the whole of the ear, just like that, like I'm making a little cave inside the ear. A few edits like that, all behind that bit that protrudes that we put first. Did about a bunch of edits like that. So now I will use the cylinder to shape or carve the shape of the ear a bit better. So I'll flatten the top with a bit of soft blend like that. Every ear shape is different, so now these are kind of artistic license choices. Some people have very rounded ears, some don't, but I'm just showing that it's nice to mix some sharp edges or some flat edges with rounded ones. Always gives a nicer quality. Now this part that we've done before, I will use the sphere to create like a Y shape inside, and that is using the soft blend gives you that sort of bit, and now you have the ear getting more detail. When you're ready, move on to the next step. And now to work on the brow area, I will use the sphere to add some detail there. So before I add some brow detail, I will do one little cut at the top of the nose using the sphere and some soft blend to get that little indentation at the top of the nose, like that. To add the brow detail, I will just use the soft blended sphere. The first edit goes around here like a V shape, like that. I don't mind that it's a bit too extruded at the moment. I can push that a bit with the move tool. I'll just put a long one on the side to round off the top of the brow, and another long one here. And then above them, I will just do a very big rounded one here to create the forehead lines, and the one more above it and a little bit tucked inside the head. Now to modify them, I will use the move tool and push them inwards so they don't extrude that much. Keep modifying their shape so they blend nicely into each other, looking at the model from all the different angles. I find that sometimes looking at the head from the bottom makes you see the angles and the curves better. One more edit I need to do is on the cheeks here, under the cheekbone indentation that we did before. I'll use a big flat sphere and put that edit with soft blend under there to give it some more bulk and not have it very accentuated as it was before. When you're happy, move on to the next step. Now, to add some detail on the neck and torso section, the main shape I will use is the sphere, and the first muscle I'd like to do is the one that goes from behind the ear all the way around the neck to meet at the center of the collarbone. Now this is kind of an S-shaped muscle, so I'm going to do it in several steps. First, I'm going to stretch the sphere into a long, thin one using form, and then place it behind the ear like that, and with a little bit of soft blend as well. I keep moving my camera around to try to get it in the right angle. And scale it up as well with the uniform scale. And now I place the first one, I place another one at the bottom and another one, and as I'm placing them, I'm scaling them down a little bit until they both meet each other at the center to create that V shape at the bottom of the neck. That is the kind of shape we're looking for. Now I'm going to bulk it in the center, as that muscle is biggest in the middle of its journey, with a bit of soft blend like that to blend it more. So now this is the muscle going from behind the ear to the center. I exit my sculpture and modify the tilt of the head a little bit. And that's really why we did them in two different models. To get the tilt of the head right in a sculpture is very difficult, and it's much easier to have it in a separate part so you can tilt it after the fact and move it to get the exact right head tilt. Once you have a good position, move on to the next step. Now I go back to the neck and add the muscle that connects the neck to the shoulders. This is like the trap muscles. And I will stretch my sphere with a bit of soft blend and descend from the neck, slope towards the shoulder to create the slope arch like that. Now, you can see the pedestal is really getting in the way when I'm working on that lower section. So I'll use this feature here which hides everything else. By just pressing on the button, everything in the scene is hidden except from the sculpture that I'm working on. Now I'm going to work on the throat section, again using the sphere, stretch it, and place a bunch of edits, one at the top and one at the bottom, sloping inwards like that. Now I turn on everything again, and I can see I've added that muscle in that awkward space a bit easier. Move it a bit with the move tool to the front to arch like that. That is the kind of shape I'm looking for. Just like that. Now to do the collarbone, I will stretch the sphere into a very long, thin shape like that. And from that V shape that we did earlier, with a bit of soft blend, I'll place the first edit of the collarbone and then the second one. The second edit, I'll make it a little bit more horizontal than the first one, which climbs upwards a bit. They create that sort of shape, and then I will do almost the mirror image of that two edits on the back to describe the top part of the scapula bone on the back. These are the bits that we need. And now to connect the neck to the shoulder, a little bit of using the same stretched sphere to create that muscle and vein that goes from the throat outwards like that. We're not doing every muscle and every vein, we're just picking the important ones. Again, to flatten or to bulk up this trap muscle, I will add an extra edit here. And then turn and see the neck from the back, and to fill in that indentation or that gap, I will put that sphere with soft blend to fill in that space. We're not really doing all the anatomical information, but as you can see, just using a bunch of spheres, we have taken the neck and upper torso to a more refined result. And now we're about to start phase 3, where things get more organic. This is actually my favorite phase, because you can really express your own individual style. Here we go. And now for the third phase, we've sped up the video a bit more because we're focusing more on techniques rather than the step-by-step operations. Again, using the soft blended sphere, I will carve the top part of the nose and that section beside the eye that gives the eye a more the surround groove it needs. This is a stage where you rely more on your feeling and your eye, like this tiny little bit in the eye, and to add the wrinkles, for example, beside the eye, I will use the soft blended sphere. I usually rely at this stage on the soft blended sphere to add detail and the cylinder to cut and to create the lines. With a soft blended cylinder, you get quite nice lines, like here to do the wrinkles. I'm using the cylinder and using the soft blend to get those marks, while adding with the soft blended sphere gives a muscle-like structure. I used a very thin sphere to make that indentation behind the nose, to carve the shape of the cheek and how it meets the nose. And you can see it's like in clay when you're carving little details, using a mix of the soft blended cylinder and the soft blended sphere. I'm creating that mark here. And now it's the time to sort of pick up any little pieces that I want to tune or refine. This part here where we did the filtering before, I curve a bit so the curve can come outwards like that using the sphere. And this is a stage of sculpture that is more about small marks and small details, turning around my head and seeing what needs work, adding a muscle here or there. There is that muscle under the mouth, and using the cylinder to carve now my chin. It's nice in sculpture to not have everything grounded. It's nice to have that chiseled, faceted look. And you still keep the curves that you've created before using the sphere. But now using the subtract, I make accentuations and create these facets that give a nicer sculpture quality. So it's like a stage where I turn like this little cut here around the ear to make the shape more sculptural and anatomically satisfying. It's all about going around the head now and cutting and carving to describe the shapes with more sculptural sensibilities. Click the arrow on the video to go to the next step. The eyelid that we created before using the 3 cylinders that we stamped, I can now do extra cuts on it to carve it. The head as well, adding those facets like we did to the chin. And when you turn soft blend on, it softens the cuts. So you can go between very sort of semi-sharp cuts to softer cuts. Move a bit around like the bottom of the eye. Very refined small decisions that add more sculptural detail. Now I've changed to the smear tool, and this is a different style of sculpture than what we've done so far. This allows me to do a more chiseled look, and to do that I'm going to pick a mixed color to do the hair. Like now that I am picking just one color, you can see that it just puts it in black. Instead, I'll pick several tones of dark colors, of black tones and dark blues and dark reds, and drag them onto the color mixer to get a variety of tones in my smears. So see the smear places multiple edits in one press, so you can actually paint with your sculpture rather than place one careful edit after the other. I kept this technique till we got to a good place with the head, and I'm going to use the smear tool to make the hair, as the hair is more forgiving and we don't have to be very correct with the marks we're making. So using the smear tool for hair is not a bad place to start, as you move your hand fast and it makes sculptural marks. I still have my mirror on. I've turned on the looseness tool as well, which is on my secondary motion controller, and it adds this fuzziness to my sculpture by pressing and twisting. And all the shortcuts I'm using are going to be written on the side of this masterclass. So using the loosened mark, and I'm using the smear tool now to create the hair. And as you can see, I'm still turning around my shape. Because I chose a mixed color, the color is not just coming out as one brown tone, it's picking different shades that I have picked in my color mixer. And I'm just carving around the head that I did before, making the marks of the hair, still using the mirror to do the first part, and not really worrying too much about getting the shape perfect because it's the hair. Now I'm going to turn the mirror off to get an asymmetrical design for the hairstyle, putting just different marks to suggest the shape of the hairstyle. And the nice thing about the loosening tool, which allows you to make your shapes more impressionistic and fuzzy, you can always tighten it again to do a tight cut like that, and then you can get a variety of texture. You don't have to have it all fuzzy. You can do a fuzzy mark and then a sharp cut. And between the techniques that you can arrive at, see here I am changing the looseness while I'm working to variate the texture of my model, using different cuts to form that hairstyle. So it's nice that although I placed earlier the shapes without that much intention, using the cuts I now can carve the silhouette into something more appealing, and using the cuts to create indentations that suggest hair direction. This stage you can spend ages and you can do the whole sculpture in that technique, but I thought to show it to you on the hair rather than doing the whole sculpture with it, just to get a taster of what that style of sculpture looks like. It's more sketchy. I will continue to add more detail in the next step. It's nice to zoom out and zoom back in to see what you're doing, and from a distance. Now I picked the spray paint tool, which allows me to paint my model after the fact without adding any sculptural form. You just pick the color and then you paint over your sculpture. I'm going to use this, and I'm going to soft blend it using the same soft blend button and gesture from before. I can soft blend the color instead of the form. And I'm going just to choose different tones of color to paint my head and put some dark parts in the dark sections. It's always nice, even though we have light describing all the shadows, it's nice sometimes in the areas of grooves to add darker tones in them. And now I'm just painting with a very light opacity where the hair meets the head to suggest a blend of hair onto the skull, onto the head. And the thing I'm going to do after that, this is just color, and I can pick color from my object, which I'm doing now. I'm using the color picker, and it allows you to pick colors from the scene as well as mix them. That's one of its perks. I'm also painting looseness on my model. So even looseness is a parameter. You can pick the looseness tool and make an area that was initially sharp more fuzzy after the fact as well. So you can use that technique to do facial hair, for example. First, I'm going to color the beard section with low opacity green or greenish brown, and you can decrease the opacity of your marks so they don't appear in full opacity. That helps you get more of a blended color. So I'm first painting the beard section or the stubble section with that color, and then get the looseness tool and dial up the looseness. And when I paint over the model, it gets a bit more fuzzy in this area, giving a suggestion of stubble. That's a nice technique to use it to do hair or to use it to do grass in a scene. It's pretty useful. Going between painting, and this side of the model is appearing more green because there's a blue light hitting the face, so that's what makes it look a bit greener. Click the arrow on the video to go to the next step. Now I go back to sculpting again. So you can jump between sculpture and painting. Using the smear technique, I just carve a few bits here and there to get, again, this imperfect result. It's nice to not have everything feel like it's made out of soft balls. The balls or the spheres were useful to start with to get the general shape of the model, and then you can start carving with the smear tool, just very small indentations like that for the chin. You can spend ages on that stage and really take the model to a very handmade quality. I didn't want to spend all the masterclass doing this technique, as this is something that you will spend time and find your own marks, but I just wanted to give a quick display of what it looks like to use it on top of a more careful process. Now I want to color the eyes. So I'm going to first darken around where the eye meets the nose, use some darker tones there. And also on this side of the eyelid, we also tend to have it being darker. Sometimes these are just shadows really, but I think painting a little bit of that accentuates the model and makes it look more convincing. To describe the eye in one sculpture, because in this masterclass we're not doing the eye as a separate element that we articulate and have the eyelids close and open. This is more of an illustrated solution rather than an animation-friendly one. So I'm just going to create a indentation for the eye where the eye goes. And now, instead of adding the iris in the same sculpture, I'm just going to do a new sculpture just for this black bit in the center of the eye, so I can choose a different material, as we only have one material per sculpture. So for this section, I'm going to use a shiny material to get just that little bit of shine on the iris. So you can see you can have variety of materials in one model using this technique. You just create a new sculpture and then you place it, intersect it with your other one, and you have a variety of shininess. The main head is matte and this part alone is shiny. Now I go back into the previous sculpture and paint around it with a dark color to blend it more and not make it stand out. That starts to work. Always looking at it from a distance. Once I'm happy with it, I take a copy of the sculpture that I did using the clone tool in assembly and I copy it back in the sculpture again to color around and blend it with the sculpture. There you go. We've got shiny eyeballs here or shiny irises that have a little bit more of a convincing result. I will continue to develop this area in the next step. To do the eyelashes, I still want to sort of tighten the eyelid a bit more because the eyelid is quite a complex shape. Initially, we started with the cylinders, but now that we're in this stage, we can cut further and just blend it more into a more flowing shape that is thinner and more convincing. You can spend much more time just doing that until the shape is completely right. It's always nice to work from a reference photo or even a reference sculpture that you have beside you so you can try to recreate that. Now, back in my sculpture, using a very loose cylinder that I've used the looseness dial on to get it to look as fuzzy as I can. And I'm just drawing the eyelash on top where the eyelid ends. And because it's a male bust, just try to make it thin enough to work. It's a fine tuning. You have to sort of keep looking, zooming out, making it smaller, making it bigger till it works. Again, using my mixed color to do the eyebrows, using the same technique we used in the eyelashes, very loose, and it's because within the sculptures you can have the varying looseness that we used in the hair and the stubble. Now I'm adding those very small stretched cylinders with looseness on to give that result. I'm not really expecting you to follow everything I'm doing here. This section is intended to give you insight into some sculptural techniques. Click the arrow on the video to go to the next step. Adding and cutting and carving the shape can go on till you really get to a very high level of detail that finds the right balance between the detail of the head you want to do and the sculpture stylization. Sometimes you will want your sculpture to be very soft and all realistic, or you want it to be very faceted and stylized. At some point, we will have many different sculpture and art classes to talk about stylization and techniques. The bottom part of the eyelid is much smaller than the top part, just enough to describe the shape of the eye, and it's towards the outside rather than it going all the way to the inside. And after I've added a few sculptural edits, now I'm just using spray paint, only to do the last part. So I can go from adding sculptural additions to just painting over the model. And every time you catch your model from a different angle, you can go and correct and modify. Here I'm making where the hair meets the skull or the head flatter so it flows better. That's the purpose of moving around so much, that you keep seeing different angles and questioning them, and refining them further. The coloring as well, you can keep layering, adding dark tones and then adding light tones on top of the dark tones to make them more blended. Here I'm just adding the muscle that makes the indentation of the, because there's a muscle that comes on top of the eyelid. The eyelid isn't that big. We do the eyelid huge first, and then in the very end you cover it with that muscle that goes on top of it. And you can do that technique of softening areas as much as you like. But that takes our model to a more refined result and shows you a very quick insight into some more techniques that are useful to see. Now I will show you how to save your work from this scene. First, select both parts of the bust. Then open the assembly menu and hit Group, which is in the context menu. Now, with the group selected, click Save as a new creation in the context menu and follow the instructions. So there we have it. That's the end of our sculpture masterclass. I hope you found it enjoyable and you feel inspired to make your own masterpieces. We're looking forward to seeing them in the Dreamiverse.